Hello and welcome to my third vlog. In this one I'm going to be talking about what I'm working on at the moment, including some handmade leather strops. Most of the video will be focused on tool talk as there have been some significant changes to the tools I'm using in my shop. And finally, at the end of the video I'll be doing a giveaway of some safety glasses by ToolFreak. As usual, I've provided times to each section of the video in case you want to skip to the parts you're interested in. Work in progress. Recently I've been focusing my attention on using up some of the scrap pieces of wood laying around my workshop because I really needed to free up some more space. I had a big pile of short offcuts of hardwood forming, and I don't like to throw pieces of hardwood away no matter how small and unuseful I think they're going to be. They tend to just clutter up, so I made some key racks and some coat racks with those, and those are for sale now on my Etsy store. I also had about a sheet and a half of oak veneered MDF left over from when I made the radio studio desks recently. The reason I had so much of that stuff left over was because it was a commission, so when I quoted for the job I added an extra sheet onto the quote just in case I made any mistakes and had to use another piece. But luckily I didn't, so I could use it for other things. So I decided to make 3 dog beds made with mitered corners reinforced with some dowels and a housing joint to accommodate the bottom panel. And then I added some sapele trim and some tapered hardwood legs. I've also recently made some leather strops because I get asked quite frequently about my leather strop, which I use for honing my chisels, hand plane cutting irons and knives. So I thought I'd make a video showing how I made mine, and I made 6 in the end, and those will be for sale on my Etsy store too in case any of you guys want one but you don't have any scraps of leather laying around. There's a link to my Etsy store in the description box below this video if you want to check those out. The project that I'm about to start is a rack for sheet materials such as plywood, OSB, MDF and chipboard, and that will be for my storage garage that I'm renting at the moment. I've already drawn up a 3D model for that, and it was designed to take up as little space as possible but also be able to hold a full 8-foot by 4-foot sheet. And for that project I'm probably going to use my new Hitachi framing nailer, which I'll talk about in the next section. Tool talk. A couple of weeks ago I posted a video about all of my Makita cordless tools and my opinions on them. Shortly after I published that video I was contacted by somebody from Hitachi, and I had a phone call with them too, and they've got some really interesting things in the pipeline. They're also working on developing their new brand to launch later this year, I think in October, called Hitachi. And they've sent me lots of their own cordless tools for me to try out in my videos. So I've decided to take most of my Makita tools out of the workshop for the time being, put them into storage, because I really want to put these Hitachi tools to the test and see how I feel about them in comparison to my Makita tools. There are a couple of tools that I own in the Makita cordless range that don't currently exist in the Hitachi range, although I'm not sure for how long that will be the case. Those are the trim router and the random orbit sander. So for the time being in my workshop I'm going to be running 2 batteries, the Makita for the router and sander and Hitachi for everything else. But ultimately I only want to be using one brand of tools in my workshop to save space and to keep things simple. So after using the Hitachi tools for a few months I'll then need to make a decision as to whether I carry on using Hitachi or go back to using my Makita tools. Hitachi have also provided me with 2 tools that I don't own in the Makita cordless range, and those are the 18 gauge brad nailer and the framing nailer. I mentioned in the video about my Makita tools that I really wanted to try some battery operated nailers because that could open up the opportunity for me to get rid of my air compressor entirely, because I pretty much just use it for nailing and stapling, and that would free up a considerable amount of space in my workshop extension which I could then use for other things. Makita makes some battery operated nailers too, but they seem to be getting mixed reviews, whereas everything I've seen on the Hitachi nailers seems pretty positive so far. So they're well regarded and I'm looking forward to trying them out. You can expect to see some project videos and some review videos featuring these nailers coming to my channel soon. I feel really honoured to have been approached by a company as well known as Hitachi, especially seeing as my channel is not as well known as some of the other woodworking channels on YouTube. I know that I'm very fortunate to be given the opportunity to try out all of these tools, but I'm going to try hard not to let that influence my opinions on the tools themselves or the decision about whether I will use Hitachi cordless or Makita cordless tools in my workshop in future. The next thing I want to talk about is sanders. I mentioned in the video I did about my Makita cordless tools that the one tool I wasn't particularly happy with the performance of was the random orbit sander. Mainly because it seems slow even on its maximum speed setting, and who wants to spend ages sanding? So I started looking around online to see what else was available, knowing that I probably wasn't going to find another cordless sander that meets my needs, as there really aren't that many out there, which is a shame because cordless is always my preference. But I did find a corded sander that I was interested in, so I placed an order, and here it is. This is the Bosch GEX 150 Turbo. The main reason that this one got me excited was because it has a built-in turbo mode for aggressive removal of material, similar to the Rotex mode available in some of the high-end Festool sanders, but this one was available at roughly half of the cost of those. The turbo mode moves the sanding pad orbitally at high speed without the random movement, so it's a good alternative to using a belt sander, and it also leaves a better finish. In turbo mode, it supposedly removes material 5 times faster than in the normal random orbit mode, and the normal random orbit mode is what you'd use for getting a nice surface ready for finish. The footage you're watching now is me trying an experiment to measure the speed of my 3 random orbit sanders. First the Makita cordless, then my Makita corded, and then the Bosch, and then the Bosch in turbo mode. Unfortunately, after watching back this footage, I have a feeling that the Bosch wasn't on maximum speed setting, and the others were, so unfortunately the test results were inconclusive. I wish I could repeat this test again just to see how much faster the Bosch was compared to the Makita sanders, but the Bosch sander is no longer with me, and I'll explain that in a little while. So I said that this sander was roughly half the cost of the Festool Rotex, but that doesn't mean it's cheap. This sander cost me £288. The main reason I felt I could justify spending such a high amount of money on this sander was because it could potentially replace my Bosch belt sander, my Makita random orbit cordless sander, and also my old corded Makita random orbit sander. And I thought that if I sold all 3 of those sanders, I'd probably make in the region of £180, which means the cost of the new sander would be around £100, and I felt that the new Bosch sander would give me better performance and more options. However, after using it a couple of times, I decided I didn't really like it enough to warrant the high cost, so I've since sent it back to Amazon for a refund. The main reason I didn't get on well with this sander is due to the weight. For sanding large horizontal surfaces, this machine would be fantastic, but for anything else, it's kind of difficult to use and a bit awkward to hold. So for example, when I used it to sand the table frame that I made for the beach slab coffee table recently, that's the sort of thing you really want to be sanding using one hand to operate the machine and then the other hand to hold the workpiece stable, and the Bosch was just far too heavy for me to hold in one hand. I did consider keeping it for larger sanding jobs and also keeping my Makita cordless sander for smaller jobs, but when I'm spending that kind of money, I kind of want the perfect solution, and for me the Bosch just wasn't that. So in summary, it's a great sander, the turbo mode is really impressive and it leaves a great finish too, far better than any belt sander. But for me it just wasn't versatile enough to do everything that I need from a sander. So after that disappointment, I started looking online again at other sanders that were available, and I think I may have found the perfect sander for me. By the way, when I say perfect, I mean perfect other than the fact that it's not cordless. This one doesn't have a turbo mode or a geared motor, but apparently it is much more powerful than most random orbit sanders. It's also super lightweight, it's quiet in operation, and apparently the dust collection on this machine is supposed to be one of the best on the market. It's also adaptable, so it can be used as a 125mm or 4-inch sander or a 150mm 5-inch sander. The only downside is that it's even more expensive than the Bosch GEX 150 was. So the sander that I've ordered is the Mirka Deros 5650 CV. I paid £360 for it, but that does come packaged with the Abranet sanding discs, which are also quite expensive to buy separately, and a vacuum hose and plastic case. Will this one live up to my expectations? I really hope so. I'll keep you updated. The main reason I'm prepared to spend so much money on a sander is because I simply hate sanding. So anything that makes the process quicker, less dusty, and less of a dreaded task, for me is a worthy investment. It's also a tool that I use on practically every project I work on, and as I'm progressing to try and make woodworking more of a business rather than a hobby, it just feels like an investment that I'm prepared to make. I'm fully expecting to get a bunch of negative comments about the fact that I've spent so much money on a sander, but I just want to make it clear that you do not need expensive tools to do woodworking. When I got started for many years, I used the cheapest tools imaginable and they did the job just fine. But now I want to use some nicer tools, and I'm certainly not going to feel guilty about spending my hard-earned cash on something that should make my work quicker and more enjoyable. Giveaway. Recently, a company called ToolFreak got in touch and asked me if I'd like to try out some of their safety glasses. And they sent me 6 pairs of these glasses, 3 with clear lenses and 3 with tinted lenses. And I'm really quite impressed with these. I think they're really well designed. You get a soft case in the box, and that's got a belt clip on it. And inside, the safety glasses themselves, which I'll talk about shortly. You also get a strap which attaches to the arms of the glasses so that you can wear them around your neck, and a cleaning cloth too. The glasses have some foam padding around the eyepiece which creates a nice seal, stops the dust getting inside, and it's really comfortable too. The lenses in these are nice and wide angle as well, so I can see right out of the sides without the frames getting in the way. They're also lightweight, and the frames are very pliable, and they've got a rubberized inside, so they're really comfortable to wear. Sometimes I wear glasses and they kind of hurt the sides of my head after a while, but these ones don't do that at all. These are available to buy on Amazon, and I'll provide a link to them in the description box below, as well as a link to the ToolFreak website. As ToolFreak were kind enough to send me 6 pairs and I only need 1 pair for myself, I'm going to be giving the other 5 away. I'll be giving 1 pair of clear and 1 pair of tinted away to my patrons on Patreon, so if you are a patron, you'll already have a message from me asking if you'd like to be entered. And for YouTube viewers, I have 1 pair of clear and 2 pairs of tinted to give away. If you'd like to enter, please leave a comment on this video saying ToolFreak clear or ToolFreak tinted, depending on which you'd prefer to win. Please use those exact words as they appear on screen now in your post, otherwise I won't be able to search for your message and you won't be entered into the contest. Winners will be announced on my social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram on the 28th of February at 6 PM GMT.